the Lord has, yes, the Lord has just appeared for Narada. So a little backtracking here. Narada was, he's telling Vyasadeva his story, how he received the position that he's in as the sage amongst the demigods, a complete pure devotee immersed in ecstatic bliss in worship of Narayan constantly. So he's actually telling Vyas how he received that position. Actually, Vyas inquired how he got such a position. And so Narad naturally actually told him. So Narada was explaining how he was with the Bhaktivedantists for 4 months, and in that 4-month period, just by associating with these elevated souls, that he made rapid advancement, and he slowly purified, slowly became more fixed in his spiritual practice. And then by the end of the 4 months, he was a completely transformed boy. And then afterwards, they left, because that's the nature of the material world. Everyone comes and goes. So, but he was profoundly impacted in just that small amount of time that he spent with the sages. So, but because he was with his mother, he had some affectionate bond to her. He was only a small boy, and she was also a normal mother trying to care for her son. But then his mother was actually bitten by a snake, and she died. And Narada, though, because he had been enlightened by the sages, he was actually able to see this as the Lord's mercy, which we can't a lot of times see when things don't go how we think. We can't see how everything is the Lord's mercy. So actually what ended up happening is Narada began touring the world alone as a young boy, depending on the Lord's mercy, as he was trained by the Bhaktivedantists, actually as they do. So that's where we're at now. He passed through all kinds of different cities and forests and groves, and then one time he sat on the in a secluded forest. He sat upon a lake and drank some water and started to meditate upon the super soul within, like the Bhaktivedantists had taught him. And then he actually got the physical sight. It's called darshan or sforti. He actually had the vision, the spiritual vision of the Lord. And then it was described that all of his senses were independently engaged in ecstasy, every single one of his senses, in seeing the sight of the Lord. And naturally, it's explained by Prabhupada that it makes any other sense of pleasure that we try to engage one sense at a time. Maybe I'll drink this and engage my tongue. Maybe I'll try and watch something, engage my eyes. Listen to something nice, engage my ears. But actually, in just the association of the Lord will actually brought Narada to a place of such ecstatic bliss that it can't even be described through mundane words. So that's where we're at right now. I'll cut you guys up. So without further ado, before I go any further, we'll have to do some prayers. So here's the prayers to the gurus.
Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeyam Shri Viraro Shri Tapadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Vitam Sajam Sadvaitam Savadavatam Parijana Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Dev Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishavatam Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Tapta Lanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavan Vrishabhanusuti Devi Pranamami Hari Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare I offer my obeisances to Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudeva. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Nar Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasdeva, the author.
Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted.
By regular attendance in the classes on the Bhagavatam and rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental song, is established as an irrevocable fact. Well, certainly it's true, poor devotee. In certain cases.
Yes, we identify as the poor devotee, but we want to do service to the pure devotee. So this is how you get fixed up. This is how you really get all beneficial things. Oh, fine. I'll see you soon.
Whose heart breaks every time.
Yeah, every time Parth goes, my heart breaks. And also, my heart broke this morning. There was this nice ginger water that you're all eating. The deities didn't get to taste. So my heart is also breaking. So, did you hear, Piyush?
I have to get up early.
Yes, you do, Piyush. Means you have to get back earlier too in the night.
I was back at 10, but I was working till late, bro. I had some applications to send out.
That's okay.
I'm sorry.
No problem. Tomorrow's a new day.
I always try to.
So, very good. So now here we are, we're back. We are getting fixed. We're cleansing our heart of material desire. You all have developed the urge to want to hear the messages of the Lord. It's getting exciting, especially when we leave out on a little cliffhanger, like, ooh, what's going to happen next? So, the Supreme Lord had appeared to Narada. So let's hear what happened. I'll just maybe read. So the last verse we read was, at that time, being exceedingly overpowered by feelings of happiness, every part of my body became separately enlivened. Being absorbed in an ocean of ecstasy, I could not see both myself and the Lord. So imagine every part of your body being separately enlivened. Like I said, I was just telling you guys, we usually engage one sense at a time and like, that's good, tastes good, ooh, that's soft, that feels good, but we're not, it's very rare where everything is being engaged all at once. Actually, it never happens. Palash, Piyush, you got that? Okay, good. So this is a very unordinary type of pleasure that Narada is experiencing by just having the vision of the Lord. So he's absorbed in an ocean of ecstasy, and he could not see both himself and the Lord. Everything was merged at that point, so to say. His own understanding of who he is and even the Lord, he is just completely overwhelmed by the vision of the Lord. So, let's see what happens next. Rupam Bhagavato Yatan, text 18. Rupam Bhagavato Yatan.
Rupam Bhagavato Yantam.
Manakantam Shuchapaham.
Manakantam Suchapaham.
Apashyan Sahasotaste.
Apasayam Sahastaste.
Vaiklavya Durmanaiva. Rupam,
Rupam.
form, Bhagavata, of the personality of Godhead.
The personality of God.
Yat,
Yat.
as it is.
As it is.
Tat,
Tat.
that. Manaha,
Manaha.
of the mind. Kantam,
Kantam.
as it desires. Shucha apaham,
Suchapaham.
vanishing all disparity.
Vanishing all disparity.
So disparity, I think, is like types of miseries, but I'm going to just double check. I like to have a little dictionary. I like to know the words, the meaning of words. It's a difference in level of or treatment, especially one that is seen as unfair. Okay, so disparity is like a difference, an unequal level of treatment. So, okay, good. Banishing all disparity. Apashyan, without seeing. Pashyan. Apashyan. Without seeing. Sahasa,
Sahasa.
all of a sudden.
All of a sudden.
Utaste,
Utaste.
got up.
Got up.
Vaiklavyat,
Vaiklavya.
being perturbed.
Perturbed.
Durmanaha,
Manaha.
having lost the desirable. Eva, as it were. I think perturbed is very similar to disturbed, but let's... so it means anxiety, mental uneasiness. So it is very similar to disturb. Having lost the desirable, Eva, as it were. The transcendental form of the Lord, as it is, satisfies the mind's desire and at once erases all mental incongruities. Upon losing that form, I suddenly got up, being perturbed, as is usual when one loses that which is desirable. So he saw this form of the Lord, and it satisfied all of his mind's desires, and it once erased all type of mental incongruities, seeing things with unequal vision, and he had like a perfect balance of vision in the mind. But upon losing that form, he suddenly got up from his meditation, and he was very much in anxiety. And he says, as is usual when one loses that which is desirable. In the material world, that which is desirable to us is usually like wealth. If we had like $100 and then all of a sudden, wait a second, where did I put that money? And next thing you know, you're in all kinds of anxiety, blah, 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 right? Or something even worse, you could lose so many things, a loved one or something like this. This brings one into immediate anxiety. But upon losing that form of the Lord in meditation, Narada was completely perturbed. Purport, that the Lord is not formless is experienced by Narada Muni, but his form is completely different from all forms of our material experience. For the whole duration of our life, we go see different forms in the material world, but none of them is just apt to satisfy the mind. Nor can any one of them vanish all perturbance of the mind. These are the special features of the transcendental form of the Lord. And one who has once seen that form is not satisfied with anything else. No form in the material world can any longer satisfy the seer. That the Lord is formless or impersonal means that he has nothing like a material form and is not like any material personality. As spiritual beings having eternal relations with that transcendental form of the Lord, we are life after life searching after that form of the Lord, and we are not satisfied by any other form of material appeasement. Narada Muni got a glimpse of this, but having not seen it again, he became perturbed and stood up all of a sudden to search it out. What we desire life after life was obtained by Narada Muni, and losing sight of him again was certainly a great shock for him. So everything that we see in this material world, it's nothing in comparison. Like actually being able to see the Lord. If the Lord appeared before you, you would forget everything else. So this actually happened to Narada Muni. But then, the Lord disappeared from him, and he's naturally very much in anxiety. And also, naturally, he won't be able to find pleasure in anything else. Me and Michael were talking about this not that long ago in relation to the water. I don't really like the taste of the water from the one spring we get. And the reason I don't like that taste of that water is because I grew up next to a mountain spring, and I used to drink that water. And that's very, very good water, very clean, very pure water. So now when I taste other water, nothing is the same because I've tasted that good water. So, and I was explaining that once you experience a higher pleasure, lower pleasures can't give you happiness anymore. So Narada Muni, once he experienced the highest pleasure of having darshan of the Lord, what is sex life? What is the taste of food? What is any type of material enjoyment anymore? It's nothing. So this is actually why we have the book, The Higher Taste. This is the principle. That once we develop a higher taste, you can't eat, things of lower taste anymore. It just is, ugh, Like what once, I used to love, for instance, one of my old favorite foods, I used to eat chicken wings with buffalo sauce. They called them buffalo wings. So I used to love these buffalo wings. But once I started eating, buffalo cauliflower pakoras, that's an idea you guys could make for lunch. A buffalo wing, you can't do it anymore. I remember when I started eating really good vegetarian food, I tried to go back and eat some of my old things like chicken parmesan. I tried, but just the texture of the meat and the knowledge that this is some animal's body and I'm pulling its muscles apart, I couldn't enjoy it anymore. I actually developed a higher taste. So there's many things like that you develop, oh man, I don't want to get really crude and disgusting, but, many people, like some things like masturbation is a very big source of pleasure for many people, but over time, then, you might find higher sources of pleasure in that realm. And then over time, you might find even higher sources of pleasure that even make anything to do with sex life seem meaningless. This is the type of thing that the rishis and the great spiritualists are describing. But in the highest is actual association of the Lord. That would make anything seem meaningless. And actually we have it. Just by chanting his name, we're associating, but we're so offensive and we're so foolish, we can't even recognize that we're associating with the Lord. We can't recognize, the Lord is there on the altar, even though we bow down and we do all the rituals. We can't recognize there he is. He's really come. We can't recognize he's come via the holy name that we're chanting, and we're chanting over and over again, trying to maybe one day taste that the Lord is there. So anyway, these are some things, but actually if we get the proper vision, like Narada somehow or other got the proper vision, we can actually apparently taste these things. I myself am not tasting all oceans of ecstasy like Narada Muni. But I will tell you, there's certain things now that I once thought was very, very pleasurable, and now I spit at the thought of them. I could never do that anymore. I could never imagine doing that anymore. So this might happen. You'll develop higher taste. And the highest taste is direct association with the Lord in intimate love. So let's see what happens. Didrikshus tadaham bhuya
Dikshustadadaham bhuya
pranidaya manohridi
Pranidaya manohridi
vikshamano pina pashyam
Visharamano apinapsya
avitripta ivaturaha
Namaitipitra sa ivapura
Didrikshu, desiring to see. Tat, that. Aham, I. Bhuyaha, again. Pranidaya, having concentrated the mind. Manaha, mind. Hridi, upon the heart. Vikshamana, waiting to see. Api, in spite of. Na, never. Apashyam, saw him. Avitriptaha, without being satisfied. Eva, like. Aturaha, agreed. This is a really nice concept here. I desired to see again that transcendental form of the Lord, but despite my attempts to concentrate upon the heart with eagerness to view the form again, I could not see him anymore. And thus dissatisfied, I was very much aggrieved, very much sad and in grief. This is actually proof, well, Prabhupada will tell you. There is no mechanical process to see the form of the Lord. It completely depends on the causeless mercy of the Lord. We cannot demand the Lord to be present before our vision, just as we cannot demand the sun to rise whenever we like. The sun rises out of his own accord, so also the Lord is pleased to be present out of his causeless mercy. One should simply await the opportune moment and go on discharging his prescribed duty in devotional service of the Lord. Narada Muni thought that the Lord could be seen again by the same mechanical process which was successful in the first attempt. But in spite of his utmost endeavor, he could not make the second attempt successful. The Lord is completely independent of all obligations. He can simply be bound up by the tie of unalloyed devotion. Nor is he visible or perceivable by our material senses. When he pleases, being satisfied with the sincere attempt of devotional service, depending completely on the mercy of the Lord, then he may be seen out of his own accord. So this is why bhakti is infinitely better than any type of ashtanga meditation or yoga practice. Because it's ultimately up to the Lord anyway. It's ultimately up to him what he reveals. And you can do mechanical processes that help you. Like Narada sat in meditation and he learned this from the Bhaktivedantas and how to see the Supersoul. But then once he actually captured the vision, then the Lord withdrew it. And even though he tried the same exact process, the same exact way, he could not make it again successful. So this is why it's very important to just do our duties, go on, as Prabhupada says, go on discharging his prescribed duty in devotional service of the Lord. And we simply await for the opportune moment. It's not up to us. It's not up to us. Doesn't matter how many mantras you chant. It doesn't matter how. If the Lord is ready to reveal himself, then he will reveal himself. I've seen this in my devotional life many times. Because I was trained as a yogi before I did any type of bhakti. I was doing mechanical processes of yoga, also known as Ashtanga yoga. And, I tried to, manifest visions of the Lord. Let me sit here, and if I sit like this, and if I breathe like this, and if I do like this. And I wasn't ultimately able to be successful. Maybe I would get like a glimpse of something, and I'm like, an imaginary glimpse of something. But ultimately, nothing. But some of the most profound realizations and experiences I have had, came completely unexpected, just doing what Prabhupada said, just discharging my duties in devotional service. And, I can think of two really notable moments in my life where actually one was, they're actually all in a group of people. But one was my wife's first initiation and my second initiation. And I was seeing all of, I was singing. It was like a form of surrender. I was singing, and I'm watching a lot of some of my family members and my wife's family members coming in the room, and we weren't that open about our Krishna consciousness yet. So I'm here, shaved head, seek, and now I live like this. But like, I was like, at that time, that was like really new for me. It was like a really big step for surrender to me. And yeah, so that was like, really churning at my heart. And then for whatever reason, I opened the laptop because some people wanted to watch on Zoom. And I saw there was like maybe like a dozen people watching on Zoom and like who wanted to come and like support our initiation. And just all of that together at once just brought so much tears to my eyes. And, it was a completely, actually an ecstatic moment I felt in my devotional life. And that could never be recreated. I could have never, well, if I sit like this or if I chant like this, it was all arranged by the Lord, actually. There was another one at my wedding, again, where, all my family members are gathered. Now we're doing like this big Indian wedding. I'm in like an Indian thing. What is that? Chavani, it's called? Chavani. Whatever it is, Chavani. And my wife's in like, the traditional red sari. And it's, many people are there. Hundreds of people are there. And again, I'm nervous and, but I'm like, here, it's another step to surrender. This is who we are. This is what we're doing. And my Guru Maharaj couldn't make the wedding, actually. But we had asked him to like speak at the wedding, but he couldn't make it. So he sent Damodar. You all met Damodar the other day. Well, Damodar actually gave a really nice speech on behalf of his father.
You're
But
talking about Indian wedding here or?
no, our wedding in America, when we did the wedding in America. And yeah, Damodar gave a beautiful, beautiful speech. And he tinkered the speech because my Guru Maharaj said everything about Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. But my Western family wasn't going to understand who Krishna is, what is this. So he interchanged certain words for God, and he kind of edited my Guru Maharaj's speech. But the way he edited it was so beautiful, and I was so shocked that it was so much beauty was being spoken, like my Guru Maharaj's message and then Damodar's editing. Like, I just like lost it, and I was just weeping, like crying, like in front of everybody. It was like really embarrassing. There's like pictures of me like at the wedding, like, Giovanni. But it's very, it was actually a form of devotional ecstasy. I felt that here's my Guru Maharaj is actually telling how proud he was of us, of what we were doing, and he was also telling them what type of because our parents look at us very, especially now they're understanding a bit more, but they've always kind of looked at us very foolishly, like, what are you doing being a monk, doing all these silly chanting all day and things like, they just think like we're crazy people. But to hear my Guru Maharaj glorifying the processes of devotional service in front of everyone, and it was very like a heartfelt moment for me where I just lost it, and it was actually an ecstatic moment. So but this is completely it was just me doing my duties. There's no way to ever recreate that. I can't recreate those feelings. And not if I sit like this, maybe I chant like this, if I do this practice. No, you just go on doing your devotional service. And then the Lord will reveal certain layers of, ecstatic realization. And I've only had maybe a few of these type of really ecstatic moments in my life that brought me to, tears and things like this. But yeah, this is the process. You can't do it. The Lord is going to do it on His time. You just do your best to be sincere, and then all else will happen for you. So this is, but then the Lord will, anything He can give, He can also, He'll take and withdraw you, and you'll feel longing, I long to have feelings like that again in my life, but I can't recreate it. He gave it, and now it's gone, So anyway, this is my own personal experience in such dealings. Nothing like an actual vision of the Lord, to see the Lord in His wonderful splendor, like Narada experienced. But a glimpse that I have been able to experience in this life. And then hopefully the Lord has some more waiting for me. Plenty more waiting for me. We'll see. Text 20. Evam yatantam vijane
Yam yatantam vijane
mamagha gocharo giram
mamaha gocharo giram
gambira shlakshnaya vacha
gambira lakshya lakshanaya vacha
shucha prashamayanniva
puja pashma yanniva
evam
evam
thus
thus
yatantam
yatantam
one who is engaged in attempting
one who is engaged in attempt
vijane
vijane
in that lonely
in
place
that lonely place
mam
mam
unto me
unto me
aha
aha
said
said
agocharaha
gocharaha
beyond the range of physical sound. Come on, no problem. Good morning.
beyond the range of physical sound
Giram
Giram
utterances.
utterances.
Gambira
Gambira
grave.
grave
Shlakshnaya
Lakshnaya
pleasing to hear.
Pleasing to hear.
Vacha
Vacha
words.
words.
Shuchaha
Suchaha
grief.
grief
Prashamayan
Prashamayan
mitigating.
mitigating
Eva
Eva
like.
like
So, seeing my attempts in that lonely place, the personality of Godhead, who is transcendental to all mundane description, spoke to me with gravity and pleasing words just to mitigate my grief. Purport. In the Vedas, it is said that God is beyond the approach of mundane words and intelligence. And yet, by his causeless mercy, one can have suitable senses to hear him or to speak to him. This is the Lord's inconceivable energy. One upon whom his mercy is bestowed can hear him. The Lord was much pleased with Narada Muni, and therefore the necessary strength was invested in him, so that he could hear the Lord. It is not, however, possible for others to perceive directly the touch of the Lord during the probationary stage of regulative devotional service. We're in that probationary stage, by the way. It was a special gift for Narada. When he heard the pleasing words of the Lord, the feelings of separation were to some extent mitigated. A devotee in love with God feels always the pangs of separation and is therefore always enwrapped in transcendental ecstasy. Actually, you see this, we're going to maybe, I haven't planned it out tomorrow what we're going to do. We're going to continue our talks of the Ras dance tomorrow. And you see that Krishna actually, he will purposely withhold himself. Why? Because this actually increases the devotee's love for him more and more and more. And you see this with the gopis. It's kind of like a tough love type of thing, but it's really the best thing for our consciousness. So Narada is actually going to hear the Lord, and we're going to hear what the Lord says. But ultimately, we're, like we sit, we chant a certain amount of rounds. We might not feel anything doing this. We probably don't feel anything. We feel very little. Probably just feel like we're very disturbed in mind. Like, I just can't wait to do something else. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Like, I just can't wait to be done with my rounds. Hare Krishna, that's usually what's happening in this probationary stage. Why? Because we're actually chanting with offenses. Yeah. We chant the 10 offenses. If we can actually mitigate those offenses, and shift the consciousness towards non-offensive chanting, the Lord will maybe lift the probationary period. But because we have offenses, the probationary period is there. We're in it. So, but he gives us prescribed activities, do the archana like this, do your regular hear my messages like this, like what we're doing right now, kirtan, chant my holy names, and so on. So he has the prescribed process. But ultimately, even if you get through that, to get to the highest levels with the Lord, it's a special gift by the Lord. You can't earn it. That's why we were talking, remember, you can't earn bhakti, you can't perform good karma to get bhakti. You can perform good karma to make yourself eligible to receive bhakti, but ultimately it's completely a gift of the Lord. If the Lord sees you favorably, he will give. Otherwise, he will withhold certain amounts. So it forces us to be completely sincere. And then even when we do somehow make a connection with the Lord in some small way, then he'll take himself away again, like he does with Narada, and we'll feel the pangs of separation. And this is actually going to increase and increase our love for him more and more and more until we leave this world. It's just going to keep happening like this. It's not an easy path, you know. It's not like an easy path, but this is the utmost path. So anyway, this is happening to Narada. Now the Lord had revealed a form to him. He was like, oh my God, you know, in so much ecstasy, and then he disappeared, and then he was in so much anxiety. And then now, to pacify Narada, he'll leave him with a message. And we'll talk about that message tomorrow. Jai. I'm just kidding, actually. I'll give you... Piyush was like, all right, perfect. I don't want to hear the message of the Lord. I was trying to give you guys a cliffhanger. So you'd be like, no. Yeah, that was what I was hoping you would get to, but Piyush was out of here. So anyway...
Don't do that.
Hantasmin janmani bhavan mamam drashtumi harhati avipakva kashayanam durdarshoham kuyoginam hanta. O Narada, asmin, this, janmani, duration of life, bhavan, yourself, ma, not, mam, me, drashtum, to see, iha, here, arhati, deserve, avipakva, immature, kashayanam, material dirt, Dordarshaha, difficult to be seen. Aham, I. Kuyoginam, incomplete in service. Translation. O Narada, the Lord spoke, I regret that during this lifetime you will not be able to see me anymore. Those who are incomplete in service and who are not completely free from all material taints can hardly see me. Purport. The personality of Godhead is described in the Bhagavad Gita as the most pure, the supreme, and the absolute truth. There is no trace of a tinge of materiality in his person. And thus one who has the slightest tinge of material affection cannot approach him. The beginning of devotional service starts from the point when one is freed from at least two forms of material modes, namely the mode of passion and the mode of ignorance. That's why it's so important that we develop sattva, or there's no chance of experiencing the Lord. That's why the Bhagavad Gita, the whole later chapters are just, here's how to be sattvic, be sattvic, be sattvic, be sattvic. So anyway, the result is exhibited by the signs of being freed from kama, lust, and lobha, covetousness, or greed. That is to say, one must be freed from the desires for sense satisfaction. And avarice, is that envy? Let me see. It's extreme greed for wealth or material gain. Extreme greed. So one is freed from the desires for sense satisfaction and avarice for sense gratification. The balanced mode of nature is goodness, or sattva, and to be completely freed from all material tinges is to become free from the mode of goodness also. To search the audience of God in a lonely forest is considered to be in the mode of goodness. One can go out into the forest to attain spiritual perfection, but that does not mean that one can see the Lord personally there. One must be completely freed from all material attachment and be situated on the plane of transcendence, which alone will help the devotee get in personal touch with the personality of Godhead. The best method is that one should live at a place where the transcendental form of the Lord is worshipped. The temple of the Lord is a transcendental place, whereas the forest is a materially good habitation. A neophyte devotee is always recommended to worship the deity of the Lord, Archana, rather than go into the forest to search out the Lord. Devotional service begins from the process of archana, which is better than going out in the forest. In his present life, which is completely freed from all material hankering, Sri Narada Muni does not go into the forest, although he can turn every place into Vaikuntha by his presence only. He travels from one planet to another to convert men, gods, kinnaras, gandharvas, rishis, munis, and all others to become devotees of the Lord. By his activities, he has engaged many devotees like Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, and many others in the transcendental service of the Lord. A pure devotee of the Lord, therefore, follows in the footsteps of the great devotees like Narada and Prahlad, and engages his whole time in glorifying the Lord by the process of kirtan. Such a preaching process is transcendental to all material qualities. So yes, don't worry, we'll move on, Piyush. So he regrets that in this lifetime he'll not be able to see the Lord anymore. And those who are incomplete in service and are not completely free from all material contamination can hardly see me. That's what he tells Narad. And even though Narad did the mode of goodness, the sattvic thing to go into the forest, even that won't be enough. It made it favorable, so the Lord gave him a glimpse, but then the Lord withdrew it. And then actually what's going to happen in the next life, he'll become Narad. He'll become born of Brahma and actually be a great sage amongst the demigods. And there he's able to see the Lord many, many times, over and over again. He actually chases the Lord. Wherever the Lord is going to appear, that's where Narad goes. And he'll go to Vaikuntha himself to speak with the Lord. So, but this we might be looking at a many lifetime type of process here. Now, Prabhupada did say that it could be achieved in one lifetime. But it's not up to us, actually. It's up to the mercy of the Lord. And all we can do is be sincere.
It is written in Isa Upanishad. If Lord wants it, he will favor you in that. It's a very clear message in Isa Upanishad.
Yes, I actually myself can't remember the verse you're referring to, but this concept is very prominent in all bhakti literatures. This is completely up to the Lord, whether it's mercy. We can put ourselves in favorable positions, like Narada put himself in a forest setting, and he achieved something there. But ultimately, he wasn't able to ever recreate it again. Prabhupada was saying, a place where archana is done. This is very important for the neophyte devotee. So like Rishi, we're training you to do archana, even though I'm stepping over some rules to train you to do archana, because you're not initiated and things like this, but it's actually out of necessity. But this is actually the process. So the fact that we do the deity worship and we have Mangal Arati and we open, this is actually going to create the favorable impressions upon you that you can actually come to the Lord, and you will have the, even to bow before the deity, to offer one's food and drinks before the deity. All of these things, this archana process is creating favorable impressions that hopefully carry through, and with sincerity absolutely will carry through as you deepen your relationship with the Lord. So anyway, Prabhupada was actually emphasizing how the setting you're all in an ashram where the Lord is worshipped, is far superior than being on the banks of the forest in a very peaceful setting. That's sattvic, no problem, but this is actually transcendental, a place where the Lord is being worshipped. Now, are we transcendental? That's the next question. Are we freed from the lower modes of nature, passion and ignorance, lust and greed? Are we free from these things? Maybe not, probably not. But we should pray to the Lord that He frees us from these things, and we can do more and more pure devotional service. So, now we'll end. We're good to go at this point. And we'll see you guys tomorrow, and we'll know the rest of what the Lord is going to say then. But thank you guys. Appreciate all of you coming. Tanmai, nice to have you. Hopefully this is regular, and we'll see you guys. Actually, not tomorrow, Thursday. Yes, so.